What are you talking about? You guys are savage, odd, and I don't think I'll ever get used to. Oh mate, what are you doing here? Don't send a bunch of convicts to an island and hope it goes okay. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, I am Yvette and I moved to the UK in May this year. No, it's a new year. Last year, used to May last year. I'm documenting my experiences. I made a video a while ago about the lesser known things about the UK, and you guys seem to really like that one, so I thought I actually have so many more of these, so I could totally make another video about that since you guys seem to enjoy it. I will say my Finland travel videos are coming, but they take a bit longer to edit and I haven't been bothered yet. So that is coming up very, very soon. Oh, and you'll be happy to know that I did manage to get my red lipstick off. Don't know if I have any lip skin left, but we got it off with a lot of sandpapering. Lesser known things about the UK, part 2, Electric Boogaloo. So if you want to watch the first one and then come back to this one, I'll put a link in the cards above for part 1. There's no like twist ending that you need to know before you get to this one. It's up to you, but link is there if you want it. But without further ado, we'll get into it. These are not in any order. These are just things I've been noting down while I lived here. One of the things I've noticed is that could be today's political climate, who knows, but they seem to be more politically active than Australia. I am not sure about America. I haven't been exposed to that, but definitely more than Australia. So there's always like the Extinction Rebellion protests are always on. There's a lot more because we had the election in December. There was a lot more political activism around that. Whereas in Australia, it's kind of an effort, like not effort, like F it, like without me getting demonetized for swearing. F it. There you go. I'll be British. It's more of an effort attitude towards the whole thing. Also, we are forced to vote, mandatory, so we don't really, like, you have to vote anyway, so it's not a matter of trying to, you know, motivate people to get out and vote or anything like that. It's more like getting them to vote your way, so it's a bit less intensive. But I don't think it's a negative. I think it's a positive thing to be involved. I think everyone should be aware of everything they're voting for so they can make informed decisions. So I think it's a positive thing, but yes, definitely more politically active. You can actually have a cause and do things for it if you want here. I even did tree planting last year for the environment, so maybe there is places in Australia. I never saw anywhere that was doing that, but maybe there will be now because of all the awful fires. So yes, first one, bit more politically active. My second point is that when you come to the UK, well, at least when you think you want to go to the UK, I kind of feel like you get two images in your head. You get either London, you get like a city with like Victorian type buildings, or you get like Wiltshire country vibes. They're like kind of the two expectations. However, I find there's so many nice, beautiful walks. So obviously there's Hampstead, but that's like a park. But even if you leave the city, there's so many wilderness walks, Mount Snowdon in Wales, you've got Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. There's like so many lovely hikes and walks, but I don't think the UK is really known for that. So that's been a fun surprise for me, who's a fairly active person. So that's very cool. And then also I find one thing that I will never get over is that like I'll be walking wherever on a hike in some bushland, and then you just come across a building. So for example, this one's quite close to where I live, so it's only because I know the names of it. This happens all the time, but the one I live next to I know the name of. So like you walk around Hampstead Heath and you're like, this is lovely, look at all of these beautiful trees, I don't know. And then you walk up and you're like, oh, Kenwood House or Kenwood Manor. And then there's all of these Rembrandt paintings in there and it's free to go in, and you're like, oh my gosh, what a fun surprise. I did not know this was here. It wasn't on any tourist list. Or if you like go even further to the left, I was going on a run and I was running all the way on the other side of Hampstead Heath, and I went to Golders Hill Park, and there is I don't want to call it a zoo because it's more of a like restorative animal rescue thing. So it's like an outdoor cages where they're like rehabilitating, that's what I'm looking for, rehabilitating all these animals. And so it was weird because they have like deer, which obviously I know Richmond Park and they're wild, but I still get excited about deer. But they had kangaroos and I was like, hey, old mate, what are you doing here? They had an ibis, which to Australians is a bin chicken because they're always in the bin. getting rubbish. So it was really, that's like as if you went to Australia and then they had a zoo with pigeons in it. That's what the ibis is to Australians. It's a massive pest. It stole my sandwich once when I was in like year 2 and I've never forgiven it. So when mortal enemies saw him in the zoo thing, and they had a kookaburra, like I saw all of the native stuff near me, and then if you go around the corner, it's like these beautiful manicured gardens. It's like all of these tiny little like cultured things, and these are everywhere in the UK. These are just the ones I know the names of. It's rare for me to go on a walk or a hike anywhere in the UK and not come across some sort of like pagoda, manor house, old open to the public thing. There's just so much history. It's rich everywhere, and it's always mixed in with like nature generally as well. Like, it's just amazing to stumble over these things. It's so cool. Definitely, that's probably one of my favorite things about living in the UK. Which leads to my next point, is that overall, I would say the UK is less physically active. And I'm not saying that to be offensive or anything. Australians are just like little hyperactive things. And I think it's because of the sun. We're always in like summer clothes. So you're like more inclined to be like, you know, beach body ready or whatever, because you're always at the beach. Whereas here there's a lot more like food culture, brunching, museums. It's not so much like heat all the time. Also, you're probably sweating all the time in Australia, which probably helps. That said, I'm aware Australia does have its own issues in regards to health and weight and all that and activeness. But in Sydney, where it's known to be quite an active city, that's what I'm used to, you always find people running everywhere and all that. Like, so you still have that here, it's just not as much as back home. And like we all play sports. It's really big sports culture, which I'm not a fan of sports, but I am active. So it did rub off me in some way. So I thought that was very interesting but I think it's honestly the weather, is that it's harder to get out as much, which I totally understand, but nonetheless, something I grew up with being normal, I've realized is not. One of my favorite things about one of my favorite things about British people is that, how do I explain this? You guys are savage. When you insult people, it's it's reverse, which I love because it's hilarious. And Australians kind of do it, but you guys do it so well, is that when you insult someone, it means you like really like them. And then the more polite you are to someone, the more you kind of don't like them. So an example of that would be the Parliament. But when the House is in session, people, when you disagree with someone, you'll say like, my right honourable friend, whoever. And that means like F you. And I think that's hilarious. I never get old of that. It's so funny to me. But that comes out everywhere. So like, it's infamous that when Australians use the C word, it's like the highest compliment. I don't personally say the word, but I know it is a stereotype. Yeah, so we're a bit more like straightforward with it, but you guys like are super sarcastic and dry and like savage, and I love it because you guys will like rip into each other. I think that's why I like the panel shows so much. I've just been watching Big Fat Quiz, which is like everyone roasting everyone for like 2 hours, which is amazing. But yeah, British humour is like Australian humour, but like refined and like pure, if that makes any sense. I sound like a drug dealer. Which leads to my next point, drugs. So if you watched my previous video, you'll know what my New Year's Eve was all about, which I'll put a card at the top if you have not seen my experiences on Halloween. The UK has much more drugs. I also will say, I had quite a sheltered upbringing, despite I was in the city, like I was in Sydney City, but I know I went to university and like within the first few weeks people were like talking about all the drugs they've done, and I was like, I've never even seen drugs. Like I had felt so sheltered up till that point. So I am like extra sheltered, but still overall hard drugs are a lot more prevalent here. Even like marijuana. I don't think there's a day I walk down the street in London and don't smell marijuana. I smell marijuana more than I smell tobacco. Like, it's very prevalent. Marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it, is in Australia. Like, that's the same thing, but it doesn't really go past that. So like cocaine, meth, heroin. That said, my cousin is a very heavy drug addict. Story for another day, but I have a colourful background. Don't send a bunch of convicts to an island and hope it goes okay. So like, I've always been exposed to like the hard drugs, but not casually. I feel like the only time you see hard drugs in Australia is like my cousin's situation, where it's like you're not functioning human of society anymore. You know what I mean? like you need help, you're not all there anymore. Whereas in the UK, it's just more of a casual, fun party thing, from what I've seen, which is odd and I don't think I'll ever get used to. One of the huge benefits of the UK that people don't realise is how diverse it is. So I think when you watch British films and TV, it's all Downton Abbey style, you know, sir, madam, do you want some tea? The Crown kind of thing. But because of how old the UK is and then its history, you know, colonization, is that what you call it? I don't know, but like history of the world, just it's really diverse, and I mean that in every possible way you could think. So white British citizens themselves are so diverse. Someone from Essex is so different to Wiltshire, and you know, Manchester and Liverpool is in themselves so different yet so close. And then you can look further out and then there's just so many like Indian cultures, African cultures. I was at a party the other day with an Estonian woman, like Irish people. Like, it's amazing how many different cultures, and I love travel obviously, so any extra exposure to different lifestyles and attitudes I think is always fun and exciting. So I don't think you could get bored in the UK because everywhere you go there's always something different and fun, people wise. My next one, which is just for me, is vegan options. Now this is interesting because I had a friend who's Brit and he went to Australia and then he was back in the UK visiting, out to dinner. We went out to brunch with him and he was like, oh, Australia is so good for vegan options, the UK is so hard. And I was like, what are you talking about? Currently there's KFC vegan, Costa's got a vegan grill, Greg's just bought out their steak bake grill vegan thing, I don't know. And that's just the ones that launched this week. Like, there are so many vegan options here. And Australia, even for Christmas, I know you all roasted the hell out of me for my vegan Christmas dinner, but there were so many of those like pastry bake things. We don't have any of that. I've never been to a Christmas dinner and not had a plate of vegetables, like, which is fine, I love veggies. Or like, I have to bring my own food every time to everything because no one can buy anything and cater. Whereas for my for the New Year's Eve party I went to, that was the first time I'd ever been to a party where I'd been actually catered for and I didn't have to bring my own food because they just went to M&S and bought from the section. So it's like much more accessible and easy, and I've like, it meant a lot. It's much more welcoming and makes you feel less ostracized, because Australia is almost erotic with its meat. Loves its meat. Why aren't you eating that? Blah, blah, blah. What do you think, you're better than me? All this jazz. And I'm like, as you know, you do you. Whatever you want to do with your life, I support you. I'm doing what I think's right. Let's all move forward. But everyone likes to, you know, pick and choose and interrogate you and blah. Like, where's your protein? And I'm like, where's your cholesterol? And I'm like, you know what I mean? So it's great having that, making it normal here with like major chains doing things and more accessible so people can like support you and feel a bit more accepted. So yeah, I really enjoy that more than I thought I would. So yeah, it's amazing. And then this last point is more for my Australians out there. So sorry, Americans who are watching, this is not going to be shocking to you, but Amazon is amazing. We don't have Amazon in Australia. I think it launched, but it's not very good. It's very expensive and the shipping is $30 every time you want something. So it's not really accessible. And it still takes 2 weeks to get to you. Whereas here, I just ordered a new light. Spoilers, this is gonna look a lot nicer in the future. You'll get a different background, not just my lounge for once. And yeah, so I ordered a light on New Year's Day and it's here now and it's Friday. So it's so fast and it was really cheap. I've looked at buying those lights at home and they were gonna cost me like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and this was like £50 for like studio level lights. Just as an example, just because they're front of mind because I just bought them. But Amazon is just so amazing. And what we use in Australia, and when you look back you realize how archaic it almost is, but eBay, which I know, I don't think it's that big here, but it's big in Australia because that's all you can do for online shopping. And so I used to host a lot of parties or hens parties, and they always like to be themed. So for example, my friend's a nurse, and I did a naughty nurse hens party for her. So we ordered off eBay like costumes, decorations, like a lot of like medical stuff. So like the little urine jars, that's what we did our shots out of. I bought like syringes, no needles, just the syringes to do shots out of. Blood bags, poo sample thingies, whatever, and we all put food and stuff, and that was the theme. Anything from China, you need to have at least 2 months leeway, because sometimes it just takes way longer than they say, or sometimes they'll send you the wrong color and you need to give yourself, often they'll send you the wrong color and you need to like give yourself enough time to get it resent out. So if it says 1 month delivery, which is quite normal, you would give yourself 2 months to correct anything or chase anything up that doesn't turn up. So the idea of getting something in 2 days is like mind-blowing to me. And my friend who had a baby, she had a C-section, so she couldn't drive. And she was saying to me that it was really hard not being able to like duck out to the shops or anything to grab whatever she needed. And I was thinking, if they had Amazon, you could literally order whatever you needed to the house. So like it makes, if you're older, disabled, had an operation, whatever, makes like life much more accessible and easy for you. It's just so great. It's one of those things that you just kind of adapt to, and then you look back at how you used to do things and you can't believe you did that. So I'm like, how will I go back? Just like the internet. I can't go back to the Australian internet. Hopefully you like this video of me summarizing the lesser known things about living in the UK. Tell me in the comments below, were any of these weird to you, or are they like normal to you because you grew up here and you're like, can't believe she's freaking out about Amazon. But if you understood what 2 months leeway on a costume party was, you would get it. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and share it if you feel so inclined. No pressure. And remember to hit subscribe so I can see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.